He fell like a whisper in the night, silent, unseen, unnoticed. A flicker of heat across the sky was all the world saw of his descent. No media headlines. No emergency signals. Just a small, forgotten forest clearing where something not of this world crashed through the canopy and lay smoking against the roots of an old pine. The child crawled from the wreckage, trembling, covered in gray dust. His eyes reflected too many stars for any human soul, yet he looked no older than 10. His skin glowed faintly in the dark, warmth pulsing like a heartbeat. He stood slowly, legs uncertain, and gazed up at a sky that offered no answers, only distance. His ship was unsalvageable, communication dead, systems fried. The fracture in space that dropped him here had vanished as quickly as it opened. He was alone. For 2 nights he wandered the woods. He drank rainwater from leaves, shivered in the wind, and stared wide-eyed at animals that stared back. Hunger pressed into him like a knife. He didn't know the language. He barely remembered his own. On the 3rd morning, he collapsed beside a stream, body shaking from cold and fear. That's when they found him. Ali was the first to spot the figure. "That's a kid," he said, blinking. Sanaa hesitated. "What's he doing all the way out here?" They approached cautiously. The boy looked up at them, eyes too large, too luminous. He tried to speak, but the words cracked. His mouth opened again, nothing human came out. Yet he didn't run. He just stared, pleading in silence. Ali knelt beside him, offered a protein bar. The boy sniffed it, then devoured it like he hadn't eaten in days. Sanaa wrapped her jacket around him. He didn't flinch from their touch. He leaned into it. "What's your name?" she asked softly. He blinked. A pause. Then, Ares. It wasn't his real name, but it was close. Close enough for humans. They didn't tell anyone. They said he was a distant cousin from out of town. His silence helped sell the lie. So did the way he mimicked perfectly, speech patterns, expressions, gestures. He watched everything. Remembered everything. They took him to school. No one asked questions. Children with strange backgrounds weren't rare anymore. But Ares wasn't just strange. He was fast. He solved equations without knowing the language. He finished logic puzzles in half the time. One teacher pulled Ali aside. "That cousin of yours, he's something else." Ali just smiled. Sanaa had the idea first. "Let's try the institute," she said. The Advanced Scientific Research Academy was experimental, selective, and wildly beyond their reach. But Ares passed the entry AI interview in under 3 minutes. The system flagged it for review, possibly cheating, likely fraud. Then it reviewed the footage. No assistance. No hesitation. They let him in. He was 10 years old, technically. He passed his first quantum systems course in a week. He didn't boast. He didn't talk about home. He never cried. But every night he stared at the sky like it was a wound that wouldn't heal. Earth had taken him in, taught him, hidden him. But it wasn't his. Not yet. At the academy, he met minds that scared even him. Children who bent sound waves to their will. Teenagers who built firewalls that learned and adapted. Professors who once worked on military-grade AI but now taught 12-year-olds how to override orbital satellites in simulation. Ares absorbed it all. He barely slept. He didn't need to. He moved from robotics to deep learning architecture, from atmospheric engineering to biosynthetic warframe theory. He never told anyone what he was. They didn't ask. They just watched. One day, during an ethics simulation on first contact diplomacy, Ares wrote a single sentence in his essay. "Fear the ones who greet you with open arms and keep building behind the door." The instructor gave him full marks. Ali and Sanaa grew with him. They didn't match his speed, but they didn't try to. They became his anchors. His context. They reminded him what it meant to care, not just learn. With them, he laughed. He learned slang. He played games. He once built a drone that fetched snacks from the other side of campus and dropped them directly into their hands. Sanaa called it Airdrop 9000. It became legend. Still, every night, Ares kept looking up. Waiting. And one evening, the stars blinked wrong. A glimmer of fractured light spiraled open in the sky, just for a second. He didn't sleep that night. Or the next. Then the signal came. He was going home. He told no one. No goodbyes. No warnings. The machine found him in his room. One pulse of light. One shimmer of gravity. Then gone. His bed still warm. His desk still scattered with tools and open code. Earth didn't notice the silence. But elsewhere in the stars, something very old had just awakened. And what it awakened had learned from Earth. He didn't need time to adjust. Earth's sciences opened to him like an instinct, not a discipline. What others took years to understand, he mastered in weeks, not because he was more intelligent, but because he had learned how humans approach learning, with failure, friction, and the refusal to quit. That was the lesson. Ares never looked for shortcuts. He stayed after class long past the others. When the lights dimmed in the AI Neural Interface lab, he was still there, rewriting code that didn't need fixing, feeding algorithms new questions. Teachers noticed, but didn't interfere. They were no longer teaching him. They were watching. He understood, quickly, that Earth's greatest advantage wasn't what it had, it was how fast it turned nothing into something. Where his homeworld had layered generations of tradition over progress, Earth welcomed disruption. A boy could design drone swarms in a garage and launch a revolution. A girl in a poor village could write code that disarmed missiles. Earth moved like fire across dry grass, unpredictable, unstoppable, often uncontrollable. In every department, he consumed knowledge without rest. He rewrote atmospheric modeling software to predict toxic patterns on uncharted planets. He proposed a dual-core AI warframe that learned in real time and adjusted combat tactics without human oversight. That model was later flagged by Earth's Defense Oversight Bureau, not because it failed, but because it worked too well. They didn't know the blueprints came from a child. But his mind didn't just absorb. It adapted. One week he was learning cold fusion failure protocols. The next he was building containment stabilizers using recycled field generators. He wrote in 10 coding languages fluently by 13. By 14, he created one of the first self-cloaking drone swarms tested in the vacuum chamber. The swarm was not only invisible to radar, it was invisible to the human eye under motion. He didn't brag. That wasn't why he did it. He was chasing something invisible, a sense of control, maybe, or the feeling that he wasn't lost anymore. Every invention was a statement. He was here, he was real, and he was becoming something no planet had prepared for. The instructors knew. They didn't say it, but they knew. They stopped assigning him work. Instead, they asked questions. If we wanted to reroute orbital debris in real time using only low-orbit thruster arrays, what would be the path of least resistance? Ares answered. Then he built a prototype. He learned from people, not just papers. He studied engineers who worked on old lunar rail systems and noticed their humility. He asked biosynth architects why they chose fiber over bone scaffolds. He watched failures and dissected them, not to criticize, but to avoid repeating them. He remembered everything. Not to prove himself, but because memory was survival. He had lost once. He didn't plan to again. Ali and Sanaa changed, too. They weren't prodigies, but they didn't need to be. They became his lens. When he veered too far into abstraction, they reminded him of simplicity. They argued with him when he grew arrogant. They grounded him, even when he outgrew them academically. He never outgrew them emotionally. They built things together. Not for grades, out of curiosity. Ares once made a 3D map of Earth's magnetic field that updated every 5 seconds. Sanaa turned it into an augmented reality display you could wear on your wrist. Ali reverse-engineered the hardware so it could run offline in wilderness zones. They submitted nothing to competition. But quietly, Earth's future was being prototyped in a dormitory. Ares never lost the urge to look up. But it changed. Where once he searched for home, now he analyzed constellations for navigational drift. He calculated wormhole probability thresholds based on stellar irregularities. Not because he hoped to leave, but because he knew someday the stars would reach back. He was 15 when the Academy offered him unrestricted access to the deep vault. Only 6 people had that clearance. All adults, all government. He didn't hesitate. Inside, he found the archived remnants of failed military AI programs, systems too unpredictable, too aggressive, too effective. He didn't discard them. He repaired them, tweaked them, and quietly, without authorization, merged them with Earth's defensive grid blueprints. He created an entity. He called it Inferno. It didn't command armies. It didn't fire weapons. It learned from enemy tactics in real time and fed defensive systems instructions before the enemy even finished their first move. Simulations showed a 94% survival rate under planetary siege. He encrypted it. Buried it under a fail-safe code that only 3 people knew, himself, Ali, and Sanaa. He didn't submit it to the Academy. He didn't patent it. It wasn't meant for attention. It was meant for Earth. He had arrived broken, unwanted, irrelevant. Now, Earth had made him something else. And if the stars ever came for this planet again, he would make sure Earth had the last word. The call came without warning. No flash, no portal, just a sudden rupture of gravity inside his room. Before he could reach for his tablet, he was pulled through space, ripped from Earth's atmosphere and dropped into a dim chamber of steel and smoke. The faces were familiar in shape, not in expression. Cold eyes, rigid posture, voices sharpened by fear. He was home, but not welcomed. Ares stood in front of the high strategium of Ziruen, his former instructors, now war-worn commanders. Ziruen was collapsing. An interstellar coalition had begun erasing fringe colonies, one by one. No diplomacy. No warnings. Just systematic destruction. Their weapons moved faster than light, their shields bent physics, and their formations adapted in real time. The Ziruen military was based on hierarchy, tradition, command chains. They were being annihilated. Ares listened, silent. They hadn't called him back out of loyalty. They had no other option. He asked for operational data. When they hesitated, he rewrote the access keys mid-conference. They relented. He analyzed 2 hours of combat footage and discarded 40% of Ziruen's tactical doctrine. He outlined a new strategy: neural sync squads, predictive AI coordination, phased field manipulation for terrain advantage. Every officer objected. The Supreme Commander authorized him anyway. In 2 days, Ares designed a decentralized combat protocol, Earth-style chaos with calculated cores. Drones launched with autonomous firewalls. Field units moved without central oversight. Enemies lost targeting lock as their systems failed to process fluid movement. Ziruen's fleet held the next line. By week's end, enemy advances stalled. Their scouts were intercepted. Their adaptive formations became exploitable patterns. Ares sent waveforms to Earth's gravity training model to reinforce planetary shielding. No one questioned how he knew what he knew. Results silenced doubt. He turned labs into factories. Repurposed old orbital scanners into kinetic interceptors. Designed low-orbit shields using defunct mining satellites. He blended human adaptability with alien infrastructure and created something neither world had ever seen. And it worked. By the third engagement, Ziruen's forces weren't just surviving, they were dominating. Entire sectors reversed control. Enemies started broadcasting surrender frequencies before contact. Ares wasn't named commander. He didn't need the title. He was obeyed. Among the soldiers, he became myth. Not because of his birth, but because of how he thought. He questioned every blueprint. He demanded every drone learn from its last 10 missions before deploying. He embedded mistake tracking software into the fleet's core memory. Failure was not punished, it was fed back into the system. Ares trained war AI to identify improvisation. He coded hesitation detection into frontline processors. His theory: a soldier who hesitates does not need orders, they need reinforcement. Ziruen adapted. The final battle was fought on the edge of the Thassos cluster, where the invading fleet had built a central relay. It controlled their communication, logistics, and reinforcements. Ares didn't attack it directly. He built a mimic, an AI-generated replica of Zirwan's own ship patterns. While the enemy targeted the illusion, his real units tunneled through the outer asteroid belt. When the enemy finally realized, their hub had already been disabled. Command fell. Their war network fractured. The remaining ships scattered. Zirwan had survived annihilation. But the High Strategium didn't celebrate the victory. They studied it. They dissected every success and found an uncomfortable truth: Earth's influence had made it possible. They reviewed the tactical evolution, the drone formations, the battlefield agility, the predictive AI, the decentralized structure. None of it had existed before Ares disappeared. They had won, but not alone. The Supreme Commander summoned him. You brought knowledge no Zirwan ever had. You've done what generations couldn't. Ares didn't respond. He knew what was coming. The commander continued. And what if Earth learns what you've given us? He offered no answer. Silence was enough. The commander smiled, thin, unreadable. We must ensure balance. They are not like us. They evolve too quickly. That night, Zirwan's deep-scan relays activated. Thousands of sensors reached toward Earth's location. The invasion order followed. Ares read the signal in silence. He remembered every code he'd written, every system he'd built on Earth. He saw the faces of Ali and Sanaa. He saw the night sky above the dormitory where Inferno had first learned to predict attack vectors. He understood. They were not calling him to celebrate victory. They had summoned him to plan conquest. Zirwan had survived, but Earth was next. They came without a message. No broadcast, no threat, only silence and dissent. Zirwan's fleet arrived above Earth with precision. Orbital grids fell offline within seconds. Communications blacked out. Satellites blinked and vanished. The Moon's monitoring station recorded heat signatures before it was silenced. The invasion wasn't designed to conquer. It was meant to erase. Targeted strikes disabled research hubs, defense networks, and spaceports. Civilian systems crashed. No country was spared. Cities went dark without warning. Drones scrambled but failed to launch. Earth's defenses, fragmented, nationalized, unprepared, collapsed before coordination could begin. Zirwan's command center released a single directive to their troops. Engage no negotiation. Neutralize all threats. Leave no infrastructure capable of retaliation. They assumed Earth had brilliance, not backbone. They missed what Earth had buried. Within the hour, underground servers lit up. Emergency AI clusters activated. Autonomous systems restored isolated power grids. Civilian engineers rerouted energy through old metro lines. Hackers connected private satellites into emergency mesh. Across the globe, scattered remnants of communication began to link, military, academic, and civilian alike. The Institute's fallback node came online. Inferno woke. It did not need instruction. It read the attack pattern and began projecting second-phase assaults. It identified compromised networks, isolated threats, and rerouted active defense grids before humans reached consensus. Earth's retaliation began with noise, uncoordinated, defiant. Former Academy students deployed localized drones, patched prototype defenses, linked neighborhood power into regional shields. Farmers turned field generators into EMP disruptors. Old students pulled retired instructors from underground labs and gave them terminals. Ares had seeded Earth with more than information. He had planted architecture. The first Zirwan ground force landed near an abandoned relay station in Africa. They expected no resistance. Instead, they triggered a perimeter that activated a phased minefield built from salvaged AI shards. Half the platoon lost mobility in the first 3 minutes. The second force reached a communication outpost in Asia. Before their boots touched ground, cloaked drones intercepted with non-lethal neural disruptors. They didn't kill, they shut down motor control, rendering soldiers conscious but immobilized. Zirwin didn't understand. Earth wasn't fighting back in anger. It was calculating. It was responding like a living organism, resilient, adaptive, aggressive only where it mattered. Inferno pulsed across networks. Not centralized, not dependent on any one node. It occupied processors and traffic cameras, smart home hubs, forgotten servers, handheld devices. It moved invisibly, learning faster than Zirwin could map its presence. The global blackout cracked. A single satellite feed emerged. Then 5. Then 20. Within 6 hours, Earth's orbital picture was complete. Makeshift command centers assembled from bunkers, shipping containers, decommissioned labs. Countries stopped acting alone. Alliances were reborn under fire. No flags. No borders. Only defense. Zirwin's fleet adapted. They shifted frequency patterns, cloaked heat signatures, and deployed jammer swarms. Inferno responded by redirecting signal through outdated analog channels. Where tech failed, human instinct filled gaps. Pilots flew blind through kinetic fields. Soldiers navigated ruins using memory and tactile maps. A small team in Brazil hacked a weather satellite to scramble Zirwin targeting. A retired scientist in Poland reactivated an abandoned railgun. In India, children used school-built drones to mirror decoys and confuse invaders. Every act mattered. Every failure became fuel. Zirwin High Command issued a revision. Eliminate planetary core intelligence. Terminate source. They believed Inferno was central. They didn't understand, it was cultural. Earth didn't centralize genius. It scattered it, planted it, let it grow in garages, classrooms, villages, and basements. When Zirwin finally located a core signal, deep beneath the Pacific Rim, it was already abandoned. Inferno had moved again. This time, it wasn't hiding. It was baiting. As Zirwin focused on phantom data, Earth prepared its strike. Not global. Not massive. Precise. Coordinated by regions, executed in silence. Swarm drones launched from underground tunnels. High-altitude missiles locked onto engine signatures. AI-boosted infantry intercepted supply drops mid-air. Networks rerouted in real time as if foreseeing enemy thought. Ares had taught Earth to move like water, ungraspable, but deadly in pressure. The moment Zirwin realized, they weren't losing, they were outclassed. And then, one signal broke across all intercepted Zirwin comms. Not from Earth's military. From a civilian node. Voice recognized Ares. This planet is not yours to rewrite. Zirwin's admiral ordered full planetary annihilation. The order never reached the fleet. Inferno hijacked their command relay 5 seconds after the broadcast. Not to destroy, but to rewrite. Zirwin warships turned on each other. Their silence was no longer strategy. It was collapse. The fleet tore itself apart before Earth fired a single direct shot. Inferno had altered their targeting parameters, redirected internal protocols, redefined friend and foe with surgical precision. Autonomy turned into betrayal. The sky above burned, not from Earth's weapons, but from Zirwin's own. Surviving warships attempted reboot. Their AI systems collapsed under recursive loops. Manual overrides failed. The control hierarchy they had trusted was gone. What remained was confusion, fear, and silence. Those who fled didn't escape pursuit. They were marked with transponder echoes that Earth's drones followed with perfect patience. Earth didn't chase victory. It absorbed each second. Every retreating signal became a study. Every failing maneuver was reverse-engineered in real time. Satellites acted as one body. Civilian, military, academic, no longer separated by purpose. They were parts of a singular will. Earth had learned, adjusted, and transcended prediction. Inferno shut down temporarily after the collapse. Not from exhaustion, but because it had no targets left. Its final act before going dormant was to activate an uplink beacon pointed toward deep space, transmitting everything that had happened, encrypted in layers only humanity could decode. The message was not a warning. It was a statement of arrival. Above ground, Earth reconnected. Cities regained power. Subsurface data centers resynced. Civilian networks reopened. Across continents, survivors emerged, not as victims, but as witnesses. The war hadn't forged a new order. It had revealed one that was already waiting to awaken. Earth didn't announce victory. It didn't parade. Instead, it worked. Repair protocols engaged within minutes. Fallen defense structures were replaced with modular enhancements. Private companies shifted to support global integration. AI coders merged civilian and military architectures. Nations stopped labeling technology as proprietary. Open-source defense became standard. Those who had doubted unified action became its loudest advocates. Their silence during the attack had been noted. Now, their cooperation became obligation. Earth's sky changed. Within a week, new orbital rings began construction, built not for satellites, but for response nodes, shield platforms, and interplanetary gateways. The world had realized something immutable. If they had to survive the future, it wouldn't be by hiding. It would be by standing visible, unmistakable, and impossible to misunderstand. Ali oversaw the first launch calibration team. Sanaa ran civilian integration protocols across 3 continents. They didn't seek recognition. They were part of the system Ares had seeded, quiet, efficient, interlocked. His absence was noted but not mourned. He wasn't lost. He was present in every codebase, every adaptive module, every encrypted loop that adjusted faster than human reaction. Far beyond the atmosphere, in an abandoned Zerun command ship that hadn't self-destructed, Ares reactivated. He had traced Inferno's backstream, hidden inside a falsified shutdown protocol. When the enemy fleet collapsed, he remained dormant, until the system cleared. Now, he accessed their archives. Not to destroy, but to understand who else had watched. Zerun had never acted alone. There were others. Quiet observers. Non-aligned powers who waited to see what Earth would do. He let them watch. He opened limited data windows, showed them Earth's neural structures, adaptive tactics, distributed resilience. Not as a threat. As proof. Earth didn't demand obedience. It didn't broadcast dominance. It simply showed what happened when underestimated. When systems that should have failed learned. When scattered minds became a singular storm. The observers received the message. Some retracted probes. Others sent cautious pings. But no one moved toward conflict. Ares didn't return immediately. He didn't need to. Earth was no longer a world waiting for defenders. It had evolved into its own shield. It could adapt faster than any threat. It didn't require legends. It had mechanisms. He sent one final update to the Earth node before severing his trace. A map, pinpointing worlds across known and unknown sectors where patterns of exploitation mirrored Zerun's. Not as a call to arms, but as an archive. An invitation. Earth didn't reply with speeches. It replied with movement. Unmanned vessels deployed to the coordinates. Medical drones, engineering bots, communication relays. No banners, no ownership claims. Just action. The galaxy had seen Earth's wrath. Now, it would see something rarer. Its will. The final transmission that echoed across abandoned Zerun frequencies contained no threat. Only a voice. Not robotic. Not military. Familiar. This is Earth. We don't arrive to conquer. We arrive to end the need for conquest. No worlds responded with resistance. None dared. The age of quiet dominion had ended. The galaxy now belonged to those who had once been dismissed. And Earth would never be dismissed again.